Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayorship of Abbotsford to bring the RCMP in. Today, I want to begin a special podcast. A special podcast on the Abbotsford Police. A name, a shield, and a way to hide organized crime. It was a group of friends, of buddies of buddies. The question in everybody's mind is my mind too, is how many favors have they done to cover up vicious acts for their friends? As far as, in my opinion, covering up murders, hit and runs, and everything else. This friendship was well established through the top of the Abbotsford APD, from the police chief to investigating officers. I made videos of showing you when there's corruption at the bottom, it's easy to get rid of it. When it's at the top, it's hard. Let me explain that. When the guys at the bottom start causing problems, it gets the guy at the top fired for your mess ups. But when the guys at the top do it, they can use paperwork in their friends and leniency of the company in its outreaches through other organizations to cover it. But it also can use its connections behind in operating in the shadows of the night to carry out vicious threats on people so they don't come forward, and also frame them, lay charges against them, work the system into their way, because that is very, very dangerous of a police officer going to jail, but also enough pressure to run it out of town. When the Henry's son, Darren Braun, the mayor's son, the proving officer that knows his dad better than anybody and knows his dad's business, was in the city operating for lifts of land preferential treatment, but knew that the city councils, the Abbotsford First, Henry Warded and special positions, were collaborating on job sites as Ron Funk's, the Cooper's Farm, and putting people in danger. When he leaked that information of what his dad was doing, he also leaked the information of why his dad was controlling Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung on the homes that got damaged behind Lou's Bar and Grill, that his dad was lobbying the federal and provincial money through Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast to bring it next to his to increase the values of his land. And Darren laughed, making a statement that them homeowners don't got a chance against his dad. Never knew I was a homeowner. Didn't know who he was talking to. Should have did the research. And the threats by Keelan Olenoff to drop a video that Henry had counsel in his house on Downs collaborating, the majority of them over the general public when they're supposed to hold the mayor accountable. They're not allowed to be with the mayor because they can pass any decision on the general public. This is what I learned from, I told you, Wall Financial, Aquilini, Mike Dakota, and Stuart Olson. And they were collaborating, and Keelan Olenoff made that and the lawsuit. He made an open threat that calls the Safety Standards Act, that knows there's witnesses that heard it. It wasn't just me, there was witnesses, on the Police Complaints Commission to come out of Victoria. But Henry's attempted murder in broad daylight when he left the city of Abbotsford in his Alexa car, fled across the street to end my life, fled in broad daylight. The RCMP mission knew when I went to him that when a report goes into any police officer anywhere on a 911, the police must check on your well-being, and they must follow up a day later or that same day on a serious thing. They didn't. The RCMP mission, men and women, knew that this organized crime ring was in the top of the political ring. They were protecting Henry very, very well. And Mike Sir, did he know enough information that they had to protect him for covering the hit and run? For not sending investigations to talk to the witnesses, not pulling cameras, and then all the task force that was sent on me and all the threats of life. This, because of the RCMP, we video filmed it. When the Abbotsford police saw me doing podcasts, not knowing and never let it show that I was tied to political people, thanks to the RCMP, and the officer smashed my phone, my $700 phone my son bought me for Father's Day, my cameras, and made threats that he was going to jail me, had enough witnesses that I was in Abbotsford disturbing the peace, framing you. This is what takes place in this company on a day-to-day basis. I give with the RCMP's help, an open invitation to the new loser called the Abbotsford Police Chief, Colin Watts. An open invitation to go to the multi-billionaire in White Rock, sit with the millionaire and pull the cameras, and now charge his officer. And then search his officer's phone and everything to Henry. Henry had that much power that these officers were tied to him. It was the belief that this is a police department, we don't do this. The name, the shields, and the badge was a belief and a myth to the general public. It was running one of the largest organized crime, and it was out of control. The Abbotsford Police Chief knew when Ross inflated the time cards to haul rocks down on Gladys to get the homeless out of there, it was wrong. And he knew that City Council knew, all the activists and everything, and that the chief knew that Archway would not put up a fight with the homeless. He used tax dollars to get them out of here and everything when it was them. But the chief also knew of his guys lying. When I left the political function from the Abbotsford Casino, they pulled me over. When some of the other political people that were with Henry reported, he said the casino there said I was drinking. The casino has 24-hour cameras, the RCMP said, and they keep data. They go in there and they'll be able to search and charge the owner or the people that made them things. These guys weren't doing it. Then the Wrigless, week after week after week, locked in by eyewitnesses, drinking and driving a road. It was petty stuff to try to get you to leave town and pull your driver's license. Little games that they do on the community, these sick, warped individuals. These men thought that they were in the driver's seat as police, were tied to the RCMP, we're always respected, nobody ever questions us, and they left their guard down. Abbotsford residents and myself took a look at them, and it was unbelievable. There was no more leadership, no more oversight. It was buddy as a buddies, and when we're in trouble, we'll just smash somebody. From the racing of the Dodge Chargers in the middle of the winter with no chains and tires, jumping on our community vehicles that taxpayers gotta pay, playing silly games, picking up prostitutes down at Paviati's restaurant, smashing people in the face up at the Canucks Stadium and laughing and giggling, a bunch of 6 or 7 of them. I would have been appalled as the mayor. The mayor's the boss of the police, he oversees it because it's a private police. The vicious acts of going and inflating your time cards on the CP track to get the homeless out of there. When I ran these videos, you don't see them. Ripping their masks out at the height of the coronavirus at the hospital to hit on the nurses, these big bodybuilders. You saw this. The vicious acts on the homeless on a constant basis, being used as sympathy against the general community. And David Eby, in behind Walmart, the mayor was using the chief on saying that to inflate to get the jobs to them. Then the illegal party on Bell Road by Mike DeYoung to endorse Dave Sadu. But then the threats just didn't stop there. This team was in. Is Mike Sir know enough that he could pull them all down? In my opinion, I believe he did. Mike Sir covered an attempted murder. Halt the officers from doing investigations. These sick, warped individuals went out and believed that if we control the criminal reports and investigation reports, we can block everybody. It was an elite establishment. Henry was the owner, controller, and the train tycoon, tied up behind a mob that's unbelievable. It was them, Abbotsford Police, I knew when I told the RCMP that I saw him do it to Mogel, and Henry has to want that city that bad to load Ross Siemens. He stands to lose hundreds of millions of dollars with jobs he landed, lobbied through the official community plan with his team. Anybody uprooting it would do it. They have to block and that. The wisdom and the knowledge of the best, the RCMP, made me run for mayor to put that in jeopardy. And never did they think or I thought that these men, these sick, warped individuals that tell you they're about the law, they tell you they're about gangs, they lie to this community 24 hours a day, they take advantage of your tax dollars, inflating their time cards, would do this act. They weren't about law. It was a buddy-buddy system, and they could clean and check. They were given opportunity after the opportunity to do damage control, save the company, and do criminal reports. It's too much, it would bury them. It would absolutely bury them. Inflating on Canada Day, on a day where they're getting paid, to have a lavish party behind this building, increasing their salaries on Canada Day. Sick, sick. There was no oversight. Investigators that tell you that they're vital to this community and we know about gangs and we work long connections. That's a bullshit story of a loser that needs to save his job. There is no quality in here, none. I made statements that there's been some good men in here, and I told you Dix and Kern, and I'll put my name on them guys. But I also made statements that I do not and cannot find a one lady officer. And when they see wrongdoing, they call it out, even against that. This buddy system is not about, now we're looking. It's about releasing the criminals out of the Abbotsford Police. Their careers, their jobs, and gone. They've locked down in damage control. When you get somebody as experienced as me to come in, that worked with developers and know, I saw the increase of the 71 million to inflate that over the general public for Henry Brown to get the job to Unitech without going to tendering. I saw the city and mayor and council to get extra money, inflate the cost overruns without holding the developer accountable. Let me tell you, as mayor, I would say you're not getting any luxuries in here. You're not getting baseboard heaters. You're not getting flower planters and that. I got to hold you accountable and got to go to the community. They weren't. This mob saw an easy way of not going out and working hard. An easy way to take a free ride. A free ride. And no person of Abbotsford should have to go to another municipality and ask the RCMP for help in their wisdom and knowledge. These shitboxes just didn't stop. The attempts been unbelievable around my house. Colin Watts just sitting there. I know somebody. Let me get him on the phone. Photo ops with this. This team is done. It's done. It's done. And now all it can do is use violence, threaten people, and try to pull itself out. Ads of media and everything. It's done. It should have been addressed immediately when Henry tried to end my life. Reports, criminal reports, cameras, witnesses, and let the law and the judge decide it. It wasn't. This is what friends do. Scoop for a group and bend for a friend. Putting the company all in jeopardy. The top gotta go. The top gotta go. And that needs to be done. How far it goes up the ladder, that is remain to be seen, because we know Colin Watts was handpicked out of Victoria. Same with Peter Sparanese. Was he sent in here by David Eby and said, I don't need this up my ladder, and chased on me? Because usually when a new chief comes in, you get somebody that knows the town and knows the surroundings. His crying that he's got family here and his guys got family here, that's war. That's sick. This man, I don't even know how he could even make a statement like that, and it's sick. What these people didn't go after criminals. They went after families. They went to frame families. They allowed a man to end another man's life where their kids had no parents to provide for them. These sick, warped guys are always about them. These investigators need to be called out of what they're doing. They can't be trusted at night. But the most dangerous thing got out of hand, because they know this political fight is about bringing the RCMP in, and they're all gone. They know they're not going to be formed into the RCMP. You're let go. And now they're in survival mode, in shit mode, of everybody they can cry upon of this stuff. This wasn't a police department. Police department doesn't do that. When Abbotsford residents and me walked into the RCMP, they pulled chairs out, sit down. What do you mean this is taking place? What do you mean Henry's son's lifting jobs in front of his dad? What do you mean your life was attempted? What do you mean? This shit's sitting upstairs. They figured if they let Mike Sir go, because he has enough, in my opinion, to pull them all down. He's not going to go to jail for that, covering that attempted murder and not investigation, unless he's got a way of blackmailing Henry. If they let Mike Sear go and they push on me and chase me, we'll get it covered up. This is how this team is. This is a gang, a mob, operating as a mob and threatening as a mob, constantly. This team needs to end. This buddy system needs to end. I will not have a police chief that does that. That's why I'm now arguing for the RCMP. But the incident up at Ledgeview, with the man in the big Ford pickup that pulled up beside me in the corner and ordered me to pull over, that he was an Abbotsford off-duty police officer immediately. It was the wisdom and knowledge of listening to the RCMP and less It's a vehicle with flashers and that, Mr. Pelican, just get away. Go to safe ground, call 911. Abbotsford Colin Watts has not assured me that he got that officer. Abbotsford Colin Watts have not assured the general public that there's a man going out proposing that this man knew my name. This man knew what he was doing. This man stalked me from quite some time, and this man did. This is the shit of this team, believing that their investigations and their damage control to save each other is how this happened. That stuff is not savable. He broke ICBC's law. He did road rage. He ordered a threat from another vehicle. He went across the yellow line, and he endangered. This is what Olenoff did. But this buddy system up there is going to end. And it's going to end very fast. This police department cannot have this be trusted to police this town or be trusted to do anything in this town because they've been their friends. So you have to look at how many times did they let Mike DeYoung go from his illegal party on Bale Road and drinking? How many times have they done favors for Henry's son? How many times have they done stuff for Ed Fast's daughter? These are the things that open unbelievable things on this team. And this was a buddy system. It believes that if it shit kicks me and the Abbotsford West residents that stand, if you make a false statement, you stand to be sued and you stand to lose your house and everything you got and go to court. These men, you could see them, can't even defend the company, so all we'll do is beat Mr. Pelican. They can't be trusted anywhere in this town, none of one of them. Now that's going to hurt because a lot of them have big mortgages. And that is how you learn a lesson, but you got to make sure that they can never go into other police forces. I know lobbying the RCMP into Abbotsford will stop the political fighting, will put the justice back where it needs to go, hold everybody accountable, and charges will fly. And I know bringing the RCMP in, none of them will be transformated into the RCMP. And the RCMP rotate their officers and they don't get to know people on the beats. This is going to come to an end, and it has to come to the end. This mob is single-handedly controlled by Henry Braun, all of it. And what needed to be done immediately under Olenoff, Gertie Purdy, any guy threatening in my phones and everything, we needed to go through their phones immediately by the chief and see how many times they called Henry and what they were doing. Ringing my house, sitting on your tax dollars week in and week out, pressure. It's all fine and dandy when these childish garbage brats do this to residents. But when you do that and this, the resident calls them out, then it's not fine for them. They got to start backpedaling. This ain't residents. These are political politicians that this crap did this to, that stands up, fights for your community, for you, and holds accountability. This was an elite mob bigger than Al Capone. In order to get it under control and stop it and hold it out, we need a total takeover by the RCMP. So we won't have Gabriel pulling signs and threatening. We won't have Vicky Hopes. We won't have all this. This was to control the city of Abbotsford for multi-billion-dollar jobs. And a chief that's supposed to lead his company and be there for his guys cannot stand up and defend the company because they buried him. And every time he turns his back, these childish garbage crap that suits up and uses sympathy to beg on this community that they care is doing this stuff. Racing the Dodge Chargers, beating the community. They cannot be trusted at night. Not of one of them. What they never suspected was Abbotsford resident went to show where they had their guards down of what they were doing. They got to be gone. They got to be gone. Now they need to plead onto the connections, through the connections, to the connections, by the connections, over the connections, under the connections. Please, RCMP, come in here and say we're the greatest. Take a few pictures. Please, David Eby, come in here, take a few pictures. Say our new building. What they did as human beings is the most disgusted, filthy garbage ever. Even Hollywood could not write a video about this corruption. And Colin Watts knows that I absolutely know that why you didn't create criminal reports and go after him, because Mike Sir knows enough on Henry and everybody to pull the establishment and pull it down, because Mike Sir is not going to serve a day in jail and be known and let the prisoners know that he's a cop with Keelan Olenoff and go to jail unless he had it guaranteed from Henry and everybody. Mike is not going to go down like this. No cop would go down and take that hit for anybody. So he has to have bargaining chips to Henry and to the elite establishments. This is why the RCMP said, not knowing when we went to Mike DeYoung, go to your MLA. He's going to tell Attorney General in Victoria to the Premier, David Eby, that was in power immediately to get the Attorney General in. And Mike said, cut a deal. Mike said, cut a deal. The RCMP knew Mike was with Henry cleaning this. And then go to the MP. And Ed said the same thing. Oh, no, cut a deal. This is criminal ring of an organization. And its job was to rip off taxpayers, intimidate its residents, lobby for federal and provincial money for their head of their mob leader, Henry Braun. There was more than enough. Even the RCMP knew from all the witnesses. Henry gets picked up, Mr. Pelican. Henry gets picked up. And when they're not picking Henry and taking witnesses, they're empowering themselves that they could control the law and charges and everything. And that's unacceptable. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm live at the Abbotsford Police. This is why I told you Colin Watts needs to go. Colin Watts doesn't need another pass to go to another police force. Colin Watts was sent in here to try to get this under control. But Colin Watts has got to understand this. All your guys are fuck-ups. They're complete garbage. No matter you tell me they've been here 20 years or 30 years or not. They have the experience as investigators. They know what's right and wrong, and they didn't do that. They decided they were going to play the game on residents for Mr. Train Tycoon, and they got themselves in a lot of trouble. I decided with Abbotsford residents, we want the full weight of the law, even on the Safety Standards Act, even on elite investigators that have a sworn duty in that office. And now they're going to sit there, well, it ain't me. It's Colin Watts and his team that should be doing it. It ain't me. They got to be dragged out of here. They got to show for the safety of our community, our young youth, because what they'll go to now is unbelievable for each other. It's just, in my imagination, what they can pull off at night is unbelievable. So I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Abbotsford APD.